What up? What up? Welcome to Recovery Rockstars Uncuts. I'm your host, Kevin Z, and I love connecting with cool, creative people who are great storytellers. And in this episode, you're going to meet one of them. His name is Jared Callahan. Jared is a filmmaker that directed an amazing documentary called Clean Slate. Clean Slate is about two best friends who make a short film while in rehab. This film is so raw and real, and it really shines a bright light on the true struggles of addiction. Clean Slate, it's an emotional roller coaster that will make you smile and it will make you cry. And I highly recommend everyone seeing it. And now, let's get into the show.
Welcome to Recovery Rockstars Uncut, uniting the recovery community with raw and real stories. Your host, Kevin Z, puts the light on people and brands that are rocking the recovery lifestyle. So you want to be a rock superstar? RecoveryRockstars.com. Now, here's Kevin.
I've been playing letting it go. You guys, what's up? Welcome to Recovery Rockstars Uncut. I've got a little treat for you today. I've got filmmaker, my boy, Jared Callahan on. Jared, what's up, man?
Oh, I'm so excited to talk with you about this movie.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Before we get going, I always like to start off on a positive note. Jared, what is the best thing that happened to you today or this week?
Oh, we were just talking about the rain that we're experiencing. I'm here in Northern California. The rains are real bad, but the good part is that I just love creeks. I love the rivers, and around here they are swollen and they are rushing, and it's really fun to go sit or stand with my feet in a creek. So that's always the highlight of my day when I can make it happen.
Totally love that. All right, man, you're a filmmaker. How'd you get into filmmaking? Let's start there.
Skateboard movies in high school. I feel like it was the time when Jackass was really like hitting hard. I was making skateboard movies in my senior year in high school. We edited together all our footage and I sold it to our friends. It was like pre-YouTube days. And I loved it. I fell in love. So I went to college and studied filmmaking, media communication, and production. And then I got another job for a decade. I was mentoring high schoolers, and it was a great life, but I would always find my way back to the set and making movies and working with my friends and making movies. So in 2014, I set off to do it full time, and it has been a wild ride, going really well. But I'm constantly learning about what life means for me, and I love doing it through the lens of being a filmmaker.
That's really cool. All right, who's your favorite skater?
Oh man, growing up it was Jamie Thomas. I feel like, so I know San Diego, so I knew Point Loma High and the Leap of Faith, and yeah, it was always Jamie Thomas. But now Instagram skating is so different now. Now I just feel old. I follow Instagram skaters, and the new guys, like all the guys that are up for Skater of the Year on Thrasher, they're so like, good. And I just feel like, do I even skate now? Like, what is happening?
And that's my next question. So do you still skate?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we live on a farm, and it's like a 95-acre intentional community art farm. People come and make all kinds of art here on the farm, and I manage that. And so we have like we call it the auto shop. It used to be an auto shop, and I built two like quarter pipes and it's fun. We've got a bunch of little stuff that we've turned into our own little skate park inside the auto shop barn.
Seriously, that is so rad. How'd you find the farm?
I helped found it actually like 3.5 years ago. We were working in the South Bay, kind of doing mentoring young adults, kind of on this, like we had a grant, an endowment where you could come in for 2 years while you're trying to figure out your life in your 20s, right? It's hard, and adulthood is hard, and it's confusing. So we're trying to figure out a way to like mentor them on everything, life, finances, budgets, purpose, and stuff, while getting them to read books about their existence and racism. And I was like, we're just trying to waken people up. And we were doing it, but we were in a bunch of different houses trying to like meet together and like do life together. And it was hard. So I started putting out the ideas like, man, we should be on a property. We should be on a property. And around the Bay Area, you can't afford to do that anywhere. Until I was at a coffee with a guy who I said that to. And he said, you know what? I think I might have your place. And the same thing, I came out here and I did what I thought was going to be a couple hours. And I was here all day and got the tour and the life story and told my life story. And we closed on it 4 months later. So yeah, we're at 3.5 going on 4 years of life here on the farm, and it's pretty wonderful.
It sounds like there's a lot of creativity that flows through that farm. Endless creativity.
Well, like making stuff is so hard. This is to anybody who listens to this that makes anything, right? Like anything. So it's one hand, you need encouragement. You need to do it. Get out of bed, make the thing, put your butt in the chair, write the story, like do the thing. But then on the other hand, if we're just always like complimenting each other. Your work is shit. Like you didn't do anything hard. Nobody asked you tough questions or said this is confusing me or this bored me. Like, so we have painters, poets, short, like filmmakers, novelists, actors, everybody comes through, and then you expose your art to these people that don't work in your medium necessarily. And it's so good to then you share your work, and then you can't say anything, and everybody talks about it around you, and then you hear what it did, what it didn't do, where you missed, what you could do to make it a more true reflection of your heart and your truth. So it's been really great. It's pretty transformational, and it's fun who comes through here. So
That's pretty rad. How long do most people stay there when they come through?
I always say 3 days to 3 months. If you're more than 3 months, there's some permanent people who live here, like on a year-long commitment. And some people come to write a bunch of songs and record an EP. A couple people have done that. So those people like 3 months. But we had a guy come in from Canada. He's a screenwriter. He did 10 days with us. And I gave him a bunch of script notes and kind of workshopped his stuff. And then we did a cold reading. We had a bunch of artists here who aren't actors get a part, and I handed them a script. And we read his 20 pages of his script, and he couldn't say anything. And then we talked about, well, what do you think happened? Do you like this character? Why not? And it was just fun for them to get to hear a bunch of people who had never been exposed to the story before workshop it and talk about it. So that stuff is like, that's priceless, like you can't buy that.
I absolutely love that. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Clean Slate. So in its simplest terms, it's two friends who make a short film while in rehab.
Yep.
Let's peel back the onion, man. That is one thick onion, because there are so many different underlying story themes. Give me the overall premise starting there, and then I want to know how you connected with the main characters.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how we met, and we'll work into it that way. I was showing one of my first feature documentary at a film festival. I was in Atlanta, and I was speaking on a panel, I think, about how to make your movie. And afterwards, two guys came up to me to pitch me their film, and that always happens, and it never goes well. You always just say, "Thanks for sharing. I'm busy," like no thanks. Well, one of the guys was Cassidy, who's one of the guys you will end up getting to know through Clean Slate. And I went to a coffee with him, heard his life story for 2.5 hours, and it was just amazing. He's just so pure of heart. He's a genuine guy who just wants to make movies. And I can relate with that. People want to make. So I said, oh, great. Oh, you're living in a residential recovery facility. I'll come visit. And on that, I thought I was going for a 1-hour meeting, and I stayed for 6.5 hours and met everyone, multiple locations, the houses, the mom and pop businesses that they were running to get job experience for the guys that couldn't get hired other places because of their records, felonies. So it was amazing. And by the end of it, they kind of gave me the we'd love to make movies here. Can you coach us? So I started going out there and visiting and mentoring. And we wrote a feature script that we really like, kind of in the world of recovery. It's kind of following a main character that goes from step 0 to step 1. It's that big hurdle of realizing what is rock bottom? Is this my rock bottom? Do I have a problem, and should I get help? And that's a lot that everybody at one point in another that experienced the road of recovery have dealt with. And with this character, it was like a great way to show what people they have dealt with, and then all the people in and around them that are currently dealing with. So it was very real. It was a very real script. It's almost a doc hybrid kind of telling of their stories. But then as movie making goes, we couldn't get funding, couldn't make the thing, and they decided to make a short film. And when they did, I realized, oh, okay, I'm a documentary filmmaker. This is what I do. Well, I'll hedge my bets, because you could try and make a short film and I have no idea if it's going to turn out. But at the end of this, we're going to have a pretty good documentary. So that's how I got into it with these guys. It was just a lot of work before I ever picked up a camera up to point it at them. And that all goes into the trust between a documentary filmmaker and a subject collaborator. It's all on trust, right? Who are they going to be? And are they going to be their most honest and vulnerable self while you're holding a camera 6 inches from their face sometimes? Or they're sharing things that are embarrassing or difficult. And so that's how this project came to be. Clean Slate, we filmed most of it in the summer of 2016. And I got a bunch of documentary filmmakers to come live with me and live at the recovery facility. So it was part of the trust. I had 4 filmmakers that stayed 6 weeks at the facility. And they were in, right? They had the 4:30 wake up time. They were at the chores. They were at the breakfast meals. They were eating the same food. And I just felt like the trust was there. They saw that we were real people. And I think that comes through when you see the final film of Clean Slate, the final edit. It's nothing but who they really were, which is a real gift as a filmmaker to be given by someone who's letting you film them.
What was your biggest takeaway from creating this film, had you been around or experienced addiction with loved ones or family or friends
Yeah,
personally?
I'm an abusive alcoholic grandfather that changed the course of my family, my dad's life and belief system, and cousins. But this, for me, this was the first time that, not mental health, recovery, especially addiction and recovery, how I was so invested and in like a deep friendship that you would have with someone, and how much it can hurt and how often it can hurt you.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things I learned is, I think one of the things that was most impactful for me was realizing that I could be talking to Cassidy or Josh and realize, based on what their mental health was doing, and if addiction had taken control. Because now I didn't know it at the time and I was getting hurt by it. But now I have enough experience with them and with this world to realize, oh, I'm still talking to the voice and the face and the flesh of this human I love, but it's not who's talking to me. Addiction is talking to me and is manipulating me or guilting me or going high or going low or hurting. And over the course of this now, like, I've had all my film gear stolen and sold for drugs. Like, I did a year of work with someone who came and lived with us, who we, housing and a car and job after job. And it just like, oh, there are other things that need help. And I'm realizing that like health, creativity is a wing of it, but it's kind of like the spoke of a wheel, right? Like, in order for you to get healthy, you need someone, a community. You need someone that is mentoring you. You need someone that you are mentoring. You need a creative space to put your thoughts and feelings in the world so you don't bottle up. You need a medication maybe, and or mental stability, mental health care. Like, you need to care about your body and the food you eat. Like, it's not one thing, it's like 12 things, 15 things, 10 things at any given time. And I'm realizing that, and this is very much the role of enabler, and understanding that came into this because these guys wrote the character of enabler as their parents in the short film, and then for a season it was totally me as well. So I think I had no experience, very little experience, and now at year 5 going on 6 of this project, have learned a lot. And it is hard, and it is worth the relationship. That's all I can say. Like, it is way worth being in it with someone, because that's human. That's who we are. And that's why I named my company. That's our company name is People. And boy, that really bites you in the ass when you have to look at your letterhead and go, man, that's all we are. We're just people for other people. And I'm going to do that with the work I make and the kind of person, the people that we want to be, whether we're filming or not. And so that's what built these relationships that taught me so much about the world, is just by being in relationships with people that would let me walk the road with them for a while.
Love it. And one thing that is amazing about people in recovery, I mean, they're so willing to lend a helping hand. I mean, they've been through it all. I mean, I think, at the beginning of the film where it's just Cassidy praying, like, I can get through today. I'm awake, I'm alive, I can get through the day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Tell me about the two main characters, Josh and Cassie. Let's start with Josh. What is his background? What was he struggling with?
Josh comes from very Southern Baptist upbringing. Dad was a pastor. He shares as you get deeper into the movie. I know you're like 20 minutes. I'm so excited for you to keep
I know.
the onion unravel on you, man. You are in it. Get ready. It's hooked you by then, but now here we go. Just things, he shares situations in his life and trying to figure out, as they give to kids, and experience my brother experienced it, as they give you medication to help your brain as you develop, and figuring out that you're addicted to the medicine that helps you find stability is a really rough hand to be dealt. So he had been on and off and in and out of recovery attempts for a long time. And then he has a situation rack up where his behavior earns him facing a 10-year prison sentence. And like the prisons are full in so many places in Georgia where we filmed, he got a deal where they said, you can go do an 18-month mandated recovery program, or you can go serve 10 years in prison. And of course you take the 18 months. So Josh, I got to know within months of him being there, because then he was there pretty much the whole of our relationship and filming the movie. So yeah, he is a kind-hearted guy who is very knowledgeable about film. He had done film school, so he's great with a camera. Like, he understands what we were doing, and he thrived on a big set. He kind of feels like he's built to be around 40 people, commanding people where to go and how to hold a big camera. So it was really, really fun to get to know Josh.
Yeah.
Cassidy, you have seen 20 minutes. You know Cassidy really well from the opening shot of that movie. Editing a documentary is really tough because I'd sell it. It's like you were asked to put together a 500 piece puzzle, but instead of giving you 500 pieces and a box top to see what you're doing, I'm going to give you 1,000 pieces and no box top. And you need to figure out what you're putting together. That's doing a documentary, because you can spend a whole day assembling some puzzle pieces and go, I got a cloud. And the more that you build the rest of the puzzle, you realize it's an underwater scene and the cloud didn't even fit in the puzzle. So that's what we do.
Yeah, great.
It's
analogy.
a really
Love that.
long job.
Yeah.
Right.
I could imagine, like, I was just, again, watching the first 25 minutes, like, I'm blown away by how you put the pieces in place. And I can imagine, like you said, there's 1,000 pieces with no box on which direction to go.
It's so much work. But that's, like you said, you called out that first scene. It says there was these moments and you kind of have to follow your gut. And then you test screen. I think the version of the movie we released is version 17.
Yeah.
So we did 17 or more versions where we would take them out, show them to a group of people and say, what did you like? What didn't you like? What characters did you resonate with? Were you ever bored or confused? What, like, and it just shows you not what you think you have, but what you actually are showing. And that's different, because you have so much relationship with people off camera that influences what you think you're showing. So that moment with Cassidy where he filmed himself, he's a filmer. He filmed himself in a mirror and it's self-talk. And so much of his self-talk, it will continue through the movie of times he filmed himself, are so insightful, because that's what's going on in his head. And as the addiction, whatever you want to, I've talked to people who have given their addiction a name, because you can just be like, fuck you, Chuck. Like you have, right? Like you name when they're talking to you.
Yeah.
And I see that in Cassidy as at different times it's health and wise decisions coming. And then other times it was a voice of addiction talking loudly to him and through him and steering what he does. So Cassidy is a soft-hearted, kind, genuine, trying so hard person. And that makes it really excruciating when you feel like you are on their film team. You are the fly on the wall for this project. And they just keep getting beat up. The hurdles feel so tall for them to just make a short film that tells their story.
Yeah. I had the music, the videos, the characters who are real life. I mean, I really had chills at the very beginning. And it's extremely emotional. I think at the end of the day, we're all just broken in our own way. Obviously, going through addiction, it's much heavier. But I struggle with anxiety on a daily, and I just, for me, there's a lot of days when I get up and I look myself in the mirror and I'm like, all right, man, today's the day. You've got this, life is good, beautiful. You've got a house over your head. You've got a beautiful family. Although at times it doesn't feel that way. Like the weight of the world is constantly on my shoulders. And which reminds me, I got to name my anxiety, because I do talk to it, but I just don't have a name. So yeah, I like that tip.
There in therapy for me, it was always like, I feel like I'm driving a 15 passenger bus and there's all these different parts of me that are passengers in this bus. And if you don't stop and look back and address them every once in a while, they'll sneak up on you. They'll move places, because I've got anger and like everything's in there. But if you don't pay attention, all of a sudden what I've learned here is that anxiety will go from the back to the middle to the co-pilot and then have their hands on the wheel. And you're like, no, that's not your place. You don't get to drive this today. I can name you, I can see you, but you can go back 3 rows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of making this documentary?
Well, it's gotta be the relationship. I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers about where the guys are at now. It's really interesting to get to do an art project with people that is so focused on their true selves. And as a documentary filmmaker, my goal is to provide a safe environment where you emotionally, physically, spiritually feel like you can open up and put forth your most true self on camera. And then our job is to sit with that hard drive with hundreds of hours of footage and then edit down an 80-minute experience where we also honor your truth. But then that's not the end of the relationship, right? The best part is that I know where they're at. They text me. Cassidy still texts me short film ideas that he's got and poems that he writes. Josh has texted us updates, and he's got exciting things going on in his life in the next couple months. So it's just really fun to get to have a real relationship come out of something that is an art project for a season. And I got to answer that in an interview today, like to ask something about the most interesting people you've met. And I just made a list of all the people I filmed the documentary about, and it grew a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. But I just realized when I read this list of names, how much they each have shaped who I am, how I view the world, and they make me a more kind and more empathetic person. And I think with this project, that was the goal, is that you would be seen, that people who deal with their mental health and addiction and are on the road of recovery could feel seen, but that for people that don't know that it would add empathy,
Mm.
that you would be able to understand it better, and maybe for the first time what someone is going through, whom you love or whom you've been affected by, or who maybe you needed to cut out of your life because you were enabling them and it wasn't healthy. And we had someone at a test screening come up to us, probably mid-50s woman, and just say, my brother has been dealing with addiction for years. We have cut him out of our family 10 years ago. I realized for the first time what's going on in his head, and I realized that I need to forgive my brother. I'm going to show this film to my parents because I think it will reconcile our family. And I just like kind of started crying and went,
I was just gonna say, did you start
so
crying?
you liked it? Like it was a feedback session. I was just like, so thumbs up. I don't know what. So that's why we made it. We made it for her. We made it for families that need to know this. Not they can get truth not just from their own story where maybe it's too close for you to hear, but when you can see it through someone else's story, then the movies can be really powerful.
How many times did you cry during the documentary?
Too many times. a lot. Yeah. Through our limited theatrical run, I ended up going to a lot of the screenings and doing Q&As and stuff. And it's funny to just watch your film that you've seen hundreds of times in pieces, but on a 40-foot screen, you know. And it is just really something how there are these moments. And they say it when you're editing a film, there should be like 3 to 5 moments that when people walk out of a theater, they can talk about. Because otherwise you walk out of a theater and you go, oh, that was great. What's for dinner? And that's not transformational. So you have 3 to 5 moments where they're going to get you. And when you leave, everybody's going to talk about them. And there's one of them at the end, and it gets me every time. I can't believe we were there. I can't believe we filmed it. I can't believe he let us. And I can't believe it edited into the film in such a pinnacle moment. So, yeah, it worked. It worked.
Now, who should see this documentary?
Oh, man. Well, there's a couple circles. We're kind of drilling down deeper. Anybody who is continually working on the balance of their mental health, and or
everybody
they're yeah, right, who is aware that they're dealing with their mental health, addiction and recovery for sure resonate. And then there's also the handful of people where there's kind of an overlapping concentric circle where they're creative. If you make things, you don't even have to know anything about recovery. You're watching people try and make stuff, and that is a ship that is a tough one to be bound to, and you are also bound to it. But also when those things overlap and you are using creativity in your road of recovery, and it is really something to watch these guys do it. And then I think then what I'm learning is it's also resonating with people who are friends, family members, or love someone like that. Because at a test screening, at the theatrical screening, someone in the Q&A said, I've been sober for 20 years and this really sees me. But then it was their spouse who was just nodding. And I was listening to the guy, but I heard it. I saw it in the spouse's nodding of like, yeah, this was it. Like, you saw us. And so I think it's people who have loved ones that are dealing with these topics. And I think that's who really will feel seen in a way that is surprising us.
Yeah. So is there going to be a second follow-up project with Josh and Cassidy? What do you think?
Oh man, I don't know if we could handle it. Well, actually, we released another feature documentary already. We're working on it, and now we're doing some narrative scripted stuff. But one of the things actually that comes out of this project is podcasts. So we wrote the feature script. Making feature films is hard. And last year, I think $5 billion went into narrative podcast making. So we took a bunch of our scripts and we turned them all into pitch packets with descriptions and the scripts and everything. And we're going to try a 10-episode version of the podcast version of that feature script. And it's going out in the next couple months to people to find people to invest in it. So it's great because if we were going to make a series, if we're going to make a 10-episode series, but we wanted famous people, that's a lot of money and scheduling, and you got to try and get them booked 18 to 24 months in advance, right? But if I want you to come be the lead in my podcast, that's 4 hours. You can wear your sweats and you don't have to wear makeup, and you can do it from any sound booth. It's amazing. So more and more people are moving their talent into voice acting because they can do a lot in a little, and I will take it. So it'd be really fun if that exists in the future. If that ever comes out, it'll probably be in 2 years, and we'll do another one of these, and we can talk all about it.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, let's give a plug for Clean Slate. How can people find it?
It's on most of the places that you can watch something or rent it. I think it's Google Play, YouTube, Amazon Prime. There's other big ones that I'm forgetting. Any big place. Apple. So any place that you can rent a movie. I think it's even on our personal Vimeo and stuff. Yeah, it's just everywhere it can be. And I know it eventually will be in things like Tubi and Canopy, things at your local library, you can rent it. But I think that all takes a year in the way that they make stuff come out. So if you Google it, you can find it.
How long does it take you to emotionally recover, no pun intended, from that filmmaking process? Because I'm sure it was just such an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And a whirlwind, and so gratifying. And like you said, making so many deep connections. I can only imagine that I would feel such depression when that ended,
That was a very astute comment of you. I had two. The first one is you never recover. I mean, they change you, and we have multiple irons in the fire. So we're always working on stuff. So you never really come out of it, which is why I think, like we said at the beginning, you got to go put your feet in the creek, because you got to find a way to find some sanity and some connection with rest and people that aren't project-based. But the other one is, that's what I was just going to say. I learned it early on, and I learned it from one of my good friends, Lowell, who I worked with him on a short film, and he made it. And after it came out, I saw it, I thought it was good, and he got really depressed. And I've learned that there is a depression in creatives that's all genres, anything you make, that when it comes out, it's like giving birth, but your idea is no longer perfect like it was in your head. It's real in the world. And then not only critiquing other people seeing it, but in my head, a movie that I want to make has no sound problems, camera problems, angle limitations, bad acting. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. But as soon as I birth something into the world, it's only ever flawed. I could write you I could speak for 3 hours about every project I've done if that's what's wrong with it or what I would do different. So I think that's part of it, is there's a depression that you have to, I'm getting better at seeing, naming, realizing it's a companion in my van, and it's saying, you can come sit in the front row for a month, but you will go back and we will continue doing, because it's worth it and it's good and the world needs it. So I don't ever want to recover. I want to keep living this life until I can't get out of bed anymore, because there's so many stories that need to be told like this.
Okay, so aside from Clean Slate, how can people connect with you if they just want to follow your work?
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, for Clean Slate, you should see it. But if anybody that wants to show it to a group, that's what we're doing now. We're just doing these so that people know, show it to a group, show it to people who would want to see it. Anytime anybody wants to have me on a Q&A, I'm down to just do this with roomfuls of people who just watched a movie is my favorite thing in the world. It's easy to find me, and all the films we've ever made are on our website, peoplemedia.com, peoplemedia.com. And then I'm on Instagram at Jared_Cal. You can put all that in the liner notes. I'm easy to find. Love to talk about this movie with people. I'll be excited. I could definitely take up a Saturday for you if you wanted to watch all our old short films and a couple features, but it would be good for your soul. Hard, easy, fun. It'll be a laugh, cry, laugh like Clean Slate can be, but it's good. It's a capital G good use of your time. So
love it, Jared. You're a rock star, man. You guys go see Clean Slate. Jared, thank you for being on the Uncut podcast. You are the man.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, all y'all.
Thanks for being in recovery, rock stars. I guess today's episode is done. In all seriousness, though, Kevin appreciates you being part of this community. RecoveryRockstars.com. Want to email us? Kevin@RecoveryRockstars.com. Facebook, Recovery Rockstars. Instagram us @RecoveryRockstars. Kevin's wardrobe brought to you by Kevin. Kevin's transportation brought to you by Kevin. Kevin's cable bill paid by Kevin so he can keep this podcast going. Goodbye.